One moment. All right, we are live.
Welcome, welcome. We're so happy you're joining us for Creating Zola Mondays, and we're so sorry that we're late, but we're here. So we'll go forth today with a wonderful conversation with Dr. Huberta Jackson Lohman and with our wonderful panelist. I'm Linda James Myers, and I am moderator for our session this morning. And that being said, would our panelists introduce themselves? And then we'll let Dr. Huberta introduce herself.
Well, I'll jump in. I'll say I'm Harvey Linder. I'm a clinical psychologist in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm a longtime member of ABPSI. I'm currently a member of the ABPSI Ethics Committee.
And excuse me, I'm William Parham, and I am a healing circle facilitator and manage some programs for ABSI in terms of healing circles. I'm in Oregon, and I work with kids and youth out here.
And unfortunately, we're going to be missing Dr. Johisha Hickson, who's not able to be with us this morning, but we do have our wonderful guest. So would you introduce yourself, Dr. Huberta Jackson Lohman?
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm not sure where you are, but yes, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of the discussion today. Um, I am a psychologist also. I am a life member of the Association of Black Psychologists and past president of the association. And I guess today I'm talking to you in my capacity as also a priestess in the Yoruba Lukumi tradition.
Excellent. We were so excited to have you because one of the things that we're very much interested in terms of um, this notion of creating Zola, the love, the power, the prosperity, the success, is the ways in which traditional African cultural belief systems handle, particularly things like um, moral development, spiritual development, values. And I know that being a priestess, you're quite knowledgeable about Lukumi tradition, and I'm wondering to what extent does character and moral development emerge as a key feature of Lukumi?
Mhm. That's a really great question because that actually is the foundation of Lukumi, but it's also the foundation of African traditional spiritual practices. So it's not just limited to Lukumi. And so we talk about it as Iwa Puele or Iwa Rere, which means good character. And ultimately, what our intent is that we all should be developing good character, or what some also might refer to as ma'at, which are it's very similar. It's a similar concept
Mhm.
that we talk about in terms of ma'at, but that is actually the primary emphasis of the tradition. Even though some people get it a little bit twisted and they get caught up into other things, but really, what's most important is the development of good character.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. I'm not surprised that you said that. Certainly, my work has been devoted to this realization of Ahmadiyyan tradition, where Ma'at does speak to truth, justice, and righteousness. And in order to have righteousness, you have to have good character, and you have to know how to wield good character and
Ashe.
manifest it. So, um, having introduced that topic, I want to make sure our other panelists get an opportunity to make whatever points and ask whatever questions that they have.
I think he's on mute.
We can't hear you.
I would like to. I apologize for that. I'd like to start out by asking about what does the belief system see as the foundation of good character? where does good character come from? How do we develop it? How is it, you know, sustained in the society, extended to the society?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Well, I think we just have to kind of go back to this whole notion of what we call ori, and ori refers to the head. And basically, what we are learn is that before we are born, we actually choose our ori. We choose our head, and some people may choose a good head, and
Mhm.
some people may choose a head that's not so good. And when they are born, then traditionally, what would happen, of course, is that in Yoruba societies, they might receive divination, naming ceremony, so that you understand who that person is.
Mhm.
Um, also, um, in terms of Ori, one of the things that we do is that we're constantly doing rituals, prayers, cleansings, and things of that sort to help to enhance and strengthen our head and to facilitate the manifestation of good character, um, which might be displayed in terms of the kinds of choices and decisions that you're making in your life.
Mhm.
The in traditional, I guess, Yoruba societies, everything was done in the context of community. And so in community, we had infrastructures that helped um, to reinforce the importance of good character.
Mhm.
Uh, and so in traditional Yoruba societies, they would had a society called Egbe Egungun. Um,
Mhm.
it's not so prominent here in this country, but traditionally they had an ancestral society that was responsible for ensuring the morality of that particular community.
Mhm.
And Egungun society, these were the people who were masqueraded, and we did not know their identities. And they would perform rituals. Sometimes after someone had passed, someone significant may have passed in the community, to help to bring solace to the community. But also, part of their responsibilities was to protect the community from people who might be engaged in evil doings or wrongdoings, uh,
Mhm.
also protecting the community from things like epidemics and famines and those kinds of things. And so there was actually a structure that was designed to actually help to maintain and support morality in the community.
So, how does that translate into contemporary society, the outside of the um, Lukumi history and context? I know much of what you just described still exists, but also it's true throughout the diaspora that many times we need to translate that into action within our own organizational structure.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. The Unfortunately, in terms of leukemia, which our West African ancestors brought to Cuba, and then that got transmitted to here in the United States. Um, Gungun didn't really survive as a Egbe or as a society because we were under enslavement and we could not continue that. Now, it has been, I guess you can say, resurrected to a limited extent in this country. And so, in the village called Oyotunje in South Carolina, they do have Egungun societies. And then, scattered throughout the country, you might see a few people who have been initiated actually to Egungun. Egungun is a male society. Women are not women do not masquerade. Women can potentially be members of an Egungun society, but it's a secret society. Um,
Mhm.
but for the most part, we're not really implementing the egungun as it was practiced, let's say, in Nigeria. And as I said, that came about because of the our enslavers, the colonizers, and all that, who really prevented us from being able to carry out those traditions. What we do practice is the reverence of our ancestors, which we refer to as Egun, in this tradition. And we may establish our in our homes ancestral shrines, places where we can go to interact with our revered ancestors. And I should just say that ancestors doesn't include everybody that passed. So ancestors really is a special title that is, although we tend to kind of just assume that anybody that passed is an ancestor, but that wasn't the way that that was understood traditionally. It was understood more as those people who had lived basically a good life. Um, and we can go to our shrines where we can make offerings to them, seek their advice, seek their guidance and protection, and also continue to have communication with them because it is our belief that we are able to still communicate with them because spirit continues to live after we make our physical transition, and we're able to interact with them and get advice, guidance, and direction from them. And also, we are able to support them in their journey and their continued evolution on the other side. So, um, their lives as spirits don't just stop once they are deceased physically, that they may continue to evolve and learn. And even those ancestors that you might have had issues with when they were living, they may evolve and be able to offer support and guidance to us.
Does Look at Me talk about how one helps support the evolution of their ancestors who are in the spirit realm? What does it? What?
Yes, 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 it does. We have a ritual that we call elevating the ancestors, elevating the Egun. And one of the ways that that's done is like a 9-day ritual that we engage in, where we are saying prayers over that 9 days and elevating them each day with those prayers, so that they can move on, continue their own development, continue their own evolution on the other side.
Is there anything that our ancestors are like trying to impart with us and kind of like yo, y'all need to do this? During these 9 days ceremonies?
Well, sometimes that does occur. I mean, it can occur in ceremonies that Egun may, someone may be, possessed, go into trance, and ancestors may speak and actually say, give a specific direction. So it can occur in various ceremonies. And the Lukumi also have integrated into their practice. This doesn't necessarily come out of West Africa, but what we call misas. And these are sessions where we come together actually to get guidance from our ancestors as well as our spirit guides.
Mhm.
And so during those sessions, sometimes, ancestors may actually come forward to give us direction about what we need to do in our personal lives, as well as what we need to do collectively.
Can you talk more about how it informs what we need to do collectively?
Oh gosh, how does it inform? Well, it's I can't really think of a specific example, but off the top of my head,
Mhm.
um, it might, as you say that, you all need to come together as a community to
Mhm.
do X, Y, and Z. That might be an example. I'm not thinking of something specific right now, but they can give very concrete, very specific advice and guidance. Um, one example that I can speak to was um, when my godfather, Babalao, who's Oluo, uh,
Mhm.
um, when he passed, he came to one of our sessions, and he spoke to somebody actually who did not know him.
Mhm.
And so this person who was communicating this information, she had never met him. And that also helped to validate the fact that this was him speaking because she didn't know who this person was.
Mhm.
he gave us specific advice about things that he had done and what we needed to do differently in relationship to what he had actually advised us to do. And so, um, I mean, that's one example of that. But there could be other examples that uh, could apply to things more generally. Also, they may talk about things that are. I'm thinking about one ceremony that we did many years ago, um, where the someone, a priestess of Oya, um, was went into trance and was mounted by Oya. Oya is a divinity that is associated with the dead. She's also associated with wind, with hurricanes, and those kinds of things. She's a female goddess and a warrior, and she was mounted by that particular Orisha, and that Orisha then started telling us about things that were going to be happening
Mm-hmm.
um, over the well. Actually, I think they've started to manifest already about and that we needed to be prepared for the changes that were about to come. And so we needed to be able to, you know, learn survival strategies and things of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
I
Can
hope that
you
answers your
paint a can you paint a picture about what the energy is like in a room like that when someone goes into a trance state? Because I want to know what that is like. That because it sounds beautiful.
It is. It really is beautiful. Um, gosh, I don't know if I can put it into words though in terms of what the energy is um, in the room in relationship to that, and it may be different from different people how they experience that. But there is just this kind of deep respect and reverence usually for that uh, person that's been mounted because that advice that is we say is coming directly from if it's in the case of Arisha, it may be coming from Arisha, then we want to um, receive that advice. We want to express appreciation for that advice because it's coming directly from the Orisha that we worship and that we revere. I don't know if that really answers your question, but yeah, that's kind of that's yeah.
One of the things that seems to be true is that there's transmission of some of the foundational assumptions and functions that have um, been visited upon, I'll say it that way, by people who are not necessarily a part of a Yoruba or a Lukumi tradition, but same processes and actions, relationship to ancestors. And I find that the um, continuity of beliefs and assumptions, for example, ancestors and the elevation of ancestors once they've passed into the spirit realm. One tradition I'm thinking of says or teaches its members that if a loved one or someone who's passed comes to you, give them something to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that will give them an opportunity for growth in the spirit realm and development. What do you
And
think?
I would just say too that a lot of times our ancestors, and most of the times our ancestors are there waiting for us to access them. They are having a vested interest in our continued development and our evolution. So they're waiting for us. They want us to seek them out. And when we're making offerings, when we're doing sacrifices, that actually strengthens them. A lot of times enables them to kind of do the things that we may need to help us on this side.
Mm-hmm.
And just as I said earlier, that we can also assist them on the other side by making offerings and doing sacrifices and engaging in various rituals as well. So it's a reciprocal kind of interaction that's going on. They can help and support us, and we can help and support them.
I think it's such a beautiful thing that we see that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding being transmitted in the spirit realm and not limited by space and time. Let me say it that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so many of us have had the experience of ancestors visiting us. Some people actually hear them talking to. They may hear ancestors talking to them. Um, come to them in dreams.
Mhm.
Um, some people actually see spirits, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
they are constantly trying to get our attention, and to be able to offer us guidance and direction so that we can live, as we say, our best lives.
Mhm.
This is true. One of the, uh, how can I say, some sense of confusion seems to exist in contemporary times around Ma'at
Hmm.
and what it means. And we talk about it as truth, justice, and righteousness.
Hmm.
Um, can you say more about the righteousness aspect? I know you talked about it before, but I've heard that some believe there's no such thing as right or wrong.
That's a good question. I think that right or wrong is human. That those are human ways that we perhaps maybe classify different behaviors and actions. Um, the Orisha are not concerned with that. They do with whatever they do. And I guess the best example I could give is of gravity.
Mhm.
Uh, Gravity is not concerned with whether you're good or bad. Gravity is going to do whatever it does, whether you're a good person or a bad person. If you are jumping out of a 10 feet, if you're falling out of a 10-foot window, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you're good or bad. Gravity is just going to do what it does. And the Orisha, we could probably see in that sense also. But I
Mhm.
think the other thing that I could say about this is that um, we're not a binary. We don't think in the binary, this is good and this is bad type
Mhm.
of thing. We don't tend to think that way. Um, we recognize that um, uh, you have to have both, actually. One doesn't exist without the other.
Mhm.
You don't know what good is if you don't have a sense of what bad is. Both
Mhm.
of those are essential. And both of those really exist in us if you want to use those terms good and bad. And we
Mhm.
try to avoid using those things. But in actuality, there are things about every one of us, including myself,
Mhm.
that we might say need to evolve or need to be transformed, need to be developed, that kind of thing. And so it's not so much, it's not the good and bad, perhaps maybe that you might see from a Christian perspective. That this is good, this is bad. The other thing is that um, if we're looking at this from our level,
Mhm.
what's good for one person may be bad for somebody else.
Mhm.
And I prefer to use the terms in the best interest. What is in your best interest may not be necessarily in my best interest. And so it's very customized and personalized. Um, and, this is one of the reasons why divination is so important, because that is looking specifically at who you are and what it is that you need for your growth and for your development, for you to live out a long life and to fulfill your destiny.
One of the things that I like about what you're saying is that you're definitely stepping outside of the Euro-Western understanding of duality.
Hmm.
You could not have good if you did not have something known as less than good.
Hmm.
um, so that duality certainly exists, but at the same time, I'm also aware that some things, it's not arbitrary. So, for example, there are very few who would say what the current leader of this country is about is good. Now, it may be good for him because of his values and his
Mhm.
way of viewing the world, but it's
Mhm.
bad for humanity.
Mhm.
So, in a context like that, there's very clearly, I don't know, let me see, how can I ask this? Um, how do you instill within people clarity
Mhm.
about things that are good and
Mhm.
bad if they're totally subjective.
Mhm.
What's good for me may not be good for you. I understand that at a very basic level. For example, we know, uh, even from modern physics, that you look, all of us can, maybe I won't use modern physics, I'll use a more
Use
basic.
modern.
Uh, um, if what I'm doing is in line with my aspirational aim for union with the divine, then
Mhm.
some things that I do that hurt others or that are not based on truth, justice, and righteousness, I would say are bad,
Mm-hmm.
uh, categorically bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the determination of good or bad, good for me or good for you, really has to do with our own values
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
what our aspirational goals are. If I value knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, for example, versus acquisition of object materialism or ego concerns, uh,
Mhm.
good and bad will look very differently
Mhm.
for each group. So
It's
I think clarity around values and what people are believing our aspirational goals or our purpose as human spirit beings becomes a determining factor.
Yeah, it is complicated. And I would just say that ultimately, um, good allows you to be in harmony and in balance.
Mhm.
Harmony and in balance with the natural world as well as within your community, kind of thing. And so, what we're striving for is to facilitate your being able to be in harmony, to be in balance, and with and harmony and balance with whatever your destiny is.
Mhm.
Now, if we were all in harmony and in balance with our destinies, then that's going to be whether yours, no matter what yours is, it's going to be different from mine. If we're all in harmony with that, then that should be quote unquote good, if we want to use those terms for all of us, kind of thing. If we all were functioning that particular way. Um, but unfortunately, that's not the case. But when we're all functioning and are in alignment with what our destiny is, then it's not something that is going to be. Uh, I'm saying this pretty generically harmful to us.
Mhm.
And the other side of this too is, the whole notion about things that are not so good for us
Mhm.
is uh, it's not black and white, because a lot of times the things that we think are not so good turn out to be things that are beneficial.
Mhm.
That
I mean, in
we
the context of we learn from them.
yes, we learn from them, we grow from them.
Mhm.
Um,
It's
we
all good.
Mhm.
yes, experience more development a lot of times from those things that we might even consider to be mistakes in our life,
Mhm.
or missteps, if we
Right.
don't want to use that word, missteps, or
Mhm.
um, that we may learn more from them and grow from them. So there's not necessarily a bad. It's not necessarily what we would call bad.
Mhm.
So the idea that in truth there is no error, that it's all good is true, but at the same time, um, there are, if I'm lying or cheating or stealing or maligning someone's character unjustly, while that may be good in the sense that we all might grow from those activities, it may be out of line with harmony and balance that the
Mhm.
totality needs. One of the things you said that I'm very curious about the leukemic perception, you said our destiny, it may be in line with one's destiny,
Hmm.
or may not be in line with one's destiny. Is there a ultimate destiny uh, that we all aspire to, and it manifests differently in each of our lives depending on so many factors? Or are there multiple destinies? So, for example, is ultimately our destiny to be, or aspirational destiny to be in union with the divine,
Hmm.
uh, the Most High, or whatever name one may know it, or
Hmm.
are there different destinies that people are aspiring for?
I would agree with that, that that probably is the ultimate. And how we get there is going to vary from one person to the next person.
Mhm.
And you know, also we do have choice. And so, you know, we can choose to do the things that are more in harmony with our whatever that destiny is, or we can choose not to. I mean, that is still that's where Ori or head comes into play, you know, based upon whether or not we have the quote unquote good head or not. We may make good choices, or we may not make good choices in relationship to it. But ultimately, it is that development and being more and more, as you said, like the divine, I guess would be.
Mhm.
Mhm. So that helps clarify righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's foundational at some level, no matter who you are. What will differ is how that might manifest. If I need a lesson, if I do something that, or make a decision or a choice that probably in retrospect I might have made differently, and uh, people get caught up in blaming themselves or regretting or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
if my intention is good, if my intention is not to hurt others, but to help,
Mm-hmm.
not to demean, but to uplift,
Mm-hmm.
and love becomes a motivating energy, then I
Mm-hmm.
think we are pretty safe
Yeah.
relative to our destiny.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And there are, you know, we also talk about, you know, consequences. I mean, whatever you do is going to have a consequence.
Right.
And so if you're doing things that are going to be hurtful, harmful, damaging to other people, that will ultimately have an impact on you, have an impact perhaps maybe on those who are close to you. So, or to those who are not close to you, in the case of our leadership, for example, um, that, you know, these things, we don't, uh, every action, there's a reaction, which is another reaction, that kind of thing. So we're not going to escape that.
Absolutely. Other comments or questions? And I do apologize to our audience. We are, um, if there are questions that people have, I think they'll have to go on to YouTube maybe to raise those, but we're not seeing them today. Uh,
I got
There's
the
some
that says our ancestral spirits beings.
Our
beings.
ancestral spirits
Yeah.
beings. Well, yeah, our ancestral spirits are people that have lived previously. And so when they make their transition, what we're saying is that they continue to live as spiritual beings, as spirits. And we always say that we're spirit beings anyway, having this material existence. And so this is just a statement about the immortality that actually exists, that, you know, we continue to live not in the physical bodies that we currently exist in, but we will continue to live in the spiritual essence rather than the physical. So yes, they are beings.
Would that be similar to what people oftentimes refer to as soul, or our soul in leukemia
I would,
conflict?
yeah, I would not say those things are the same thing.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say, no, I wouldn't say. There's, I mean, the ancestors, as I said, they were people who actually lived, had a previous existence. Um, I don't know if I could say more in terms of the soul, but that's not, you
So
know,
they would. So those who have lived and now are in the spirit realm, they have a soul,
yes.
and that soul, does that soul carry them into pure spirit realm, and after they leave the body, does it stay with them?
Uh, well, I'm not an expert on what happens after that.
You mean you don't? You haven't had that experience?
No, I mean, I would guess so, but I'm not really an expert in terms of
Hmm.
being able to say exactly how that works, on the other side.
Now, more construction, I'm thinking of people talking about the spirit. After our bodies are gone, our spirit continues to be. And
Right.
Hmm.
I know in Christendom, we often talk about, or I hear people talking about, the individual soul continues. And I was
Mhm.
just wondering if those would be the same. Are we
But
talking about the same thing?
yeah, I think people are using those terms kind of interchangeably. And I really can't comment on how accurate that might be, but we do tend to we tend to use them interchangeably. There may be some conflation there in terms of soul and spirit, but you know, a lot of people when they say soul, they're also talking about spirit as well.
Hmm.
So it's
Absolutely.
mhm.
As we talk about spirit and soul, are you able to speak about the divination process
Mhm.
and
Right.
like what that looks like, and I guess also how Black folks here could start to engage with that process?
Okay. First, let me just say this: that divination is not something that is different from a lot of the things that we do anyway. I mean, we might even think about the weather forecast as a form of divination. They're making a prediction
Hmm.
about what the weather is going to be. And so divination is based on something very similar to that. In the Yoruba traditions, we have different forms of divination. So we have divination that may be done by the what we refer to as the priests of Ifa or Babalawos, and they may use what are called ikin or palm nuts, or the chain or puele, and the women who are called iyanitas, they may use puele, and then we have the olorisha, which would be what I am, who would use things like cowrie shells for the purpose of divination, and basically with the divination, what we're doing is it can speak to your past, it can speak to you what's going on right now in your life, or it may speak to things that have not yet occurred. But ultimately, um, what the attempt is to help you to be in alignment with whatever your destiny is. And so,
Okay.
essentially, being given advice that will help you to fulfill that destiny. It might be things that you uh, should do, things that you should not do. It could even be things that you should eat or not eat, rather. Things that, even colors that you can wear, places that you can go, actions and behaviors that you should or should not engage in. And so all of that advice is being given to you in order to facilitate your being able to be in alignment with your destiny. You might have to do various rituals in order to be in alignment. Maybe make sacrifices or offerings, engage in cleansings, even initiation. Sometimes it comes up that the person needs to be initiated into the tradition in some way. So, divination then can provide that kind of information. But ultimately, as I said, the intent is to help you to um, be able to manifest whatever your destiny is.
So destiny is again tied to the what I call unitary consciousness or the oneness with the divine.
Hmm.
And so when you say what your destiny is, it's what your particular path to
Yeah,
that is. Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so, we believe that everyone comes here um, to fulfill some particular mission. And if we were doing things like, let's say, our ancestors in Yoruba land were doing them when we were born, we would probably be receiving divination, naming ceremonies to help us to understand what that destiny is so that our parents and our community could guide us and help us to make provide for us the opportunities to best fulfill that particular destiny.
Mhm.
Our path, our path.
Yes, exactly, our path.
So I have a question to ponder on because I don't really know the answer to this, but I think that one of the things I think about often is that one of the things we do is we try to understand um, the spiritual world from a human perspective rather than trying to understand ourselves as human from a natural, from a spiritual perspective that would exist in the natural world. You know? And so we we interpret nature as being like ourselves rather than seeing ourselves as a part of nature. That's maybe something for
Right.
all of
Well,
us to kind of contemplate for a
I'm
while.
not sure if I'm understanding exactly,
Hmm. Um, I think we tend to interpret. We look at the natural world and we interpret it from a human perspective.
but we are
Then
part of the natural.
we
Natural.
are part of the natural world,
Uh,
but the natural world doesn't operate necessarily on the same principles that human beings operate on.
I guess I would say that um, in African spiritual systems, what we strive to do is to operate like the natural world,
Like the natural world.
to be in harmony
Looking
and
at.
balance. I think our Western socialization has literally moved us away from that,
Hmm.
so that we will often see ourselves as above nature
Hmm.
and will tend to just uh, exploit or use nature for our own ends and purposes.
Hmm.
But if we're operating out of what we talk about as our African centered worldview, and we're trying to be in alignment with it. We're trying to cooperate with it. We're also learning from it. Because
Hmm.
what we see in nature is that there is order.
Hmm.
We see in nature that there is this um, cooperation
Hmm.
um, in this diversity. So
Hmm.
nature is very diverse, but what we see is that these very diverse aspects of nature linking together and cooperating with each other. Uh,
Hmm.
so that if I use trees, for example,
Hmm.
you could have an oak tree, and here we do in Florida, oak tree, a palm tree, a
Hmm.
maple tree, all these living in the same environments
Hmm.
and not necessarily one trying to destroy the other
Right.
or one saying to the other that you should be the oak tree, not saying to the palm tree that you need to be like me.
Right.
The palm tree is being the palm tree, the oak tree is being the oak tree, the maple tree is being the maple tree, and so forth. And
Hmm.
so we're striving
And
to
together they all make a force.
exactly. And so we're striving to learn from that and to be more in harmony and in balance with that.
Hmm.
Because everything, how we understand is everything in nature has been put here basically to help and to support us, help us to survive,
Hmm.
and to if we understand it and if we appreciate its unique what we talk about is ashe
Hmm.
that exists in everything. If we appreciate that, then we'll be able to appreciate it and utilize it in ways that are beneficial to us that don't necessarily harm nature as well.
Right.
one of the things that occurs to me is what you're talking about, Dr. Harvey, is
Hmm.
the difference between seeing the world from an African centered
Hmm.
view, as I would say, versus seeing it from a Euro Western view, suboptimal
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
And absolutely, when we are fragmented and separate from spirit, we always misinterpret because we lack the self knowledge to see the interrelatedness and interdependence of all things. And we lack the connection to that divine that will intuit guidance.
Right.
So our hearts can be as light as a feather
Yeah.
when weighed on the scale of eternal truth. So I think that distinction that you just made is so essential to um, our path individually and collectively to reaching our destiny, as Dr. Huberta has said.
Mhm.
Kind of speaking about different viewpoints, especially on spirituality. I'm curious to know how um, your your spiritual practice, your religion coincides with Christianity, and if it is able to coincide with Christianity.
How it coincides with Christianity. Um, Actually, I think if Christianity is being practiced as supposedly Jesus practiced it, um, the adherence to those values are very much a part of African traditional spiritual systems. So, in that sense, there's a lot of similarity and the shared values in that sense. Um, Now, how it's actually practiced, that may be a whole different thing. But in terms of what we talk about in terms of Jesus as the prophet that uh, supposedly return to, uh, if we are Christians, then those values are not any different from the values that we would adhere to in most of our African traditional spiritual practices.
Thank you for saying that. I think it's important for Christians who are not as exposed to African centered spirituality to know that.
Hmm.
Right. If they knew the history of Christianity, they would know it has African roots for sure.
So it's a very African religion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the worldview from which it's been interpreted to them and us is flawed
Hmm.
and faulty. Other comments or questions? I do wish we could see more from our community of um, supporters. So we apologized if you have raised a question that we haven't been able to address to us today. Our technology is a bit limited in that regard, but I also want to thank Dr. Huberti. You have been so enlightening today, and we need so much to know uh, more about who we are from a cultural frame of reference that is congruent and has synchrony with what most of us, I believe, aspire to, but are contaminated with a faulty and flawed worldview. Are there other comments or questions from our panelists?
Unfortunately, I have to leave now, so
Hmm.
I'll have to say goodbye to everyone.
I think
Thank you
probably,
all.
yeah, I think we all probably have to leave now, but I wanted to give that opportunity if there was something pressing.
Mhm.
Again,
Yeah,
Dr.
I just wanted to say thank you
Thank
for
you.
your
Yes.
thank you for your time and thank you for your grace to explain to us today.
Yes,
That was very enlightening. I learned a lot.
Thank you. I'm glad you
I see I still have a lot more to learn, but
Well,
and I,
that will always be the case for every one of us. We always have a lot more. For me too,
infinite
even in
knowledge.
terms of the tradition that I practice.
And it was very affirming because I see the unity.
Hmm.
And I think the more we can see that unity of our aspiration, of our destiny, then the closer we'll get to manifesting it. So appreciate you. Much love, peace, and blessings to all are with us today. And until the next time.
thank
Thank
you all.
you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Take care, y'all.